This one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock.
Welcome to a new episode of The Bond Chronicles. I am one of the greatest of all time as a host here on this podcast world. I am at Mr. Ray Bond on Twitter, at Mr. Bond Chronicles on Instagram, and I am blessed to be here with my wife and my co-host,
Mrs. Bond Chronicles on Instagram, Ms. Bond Chronicles on Twitter,
and you can find us at The Bond Chronicles on Instagram. We have a Facebook page, The Bond Chronicles.
We're on the radio.
We're on the radio. Stuff. Shout out to our EB Radio fam. This will be episode number 2 for y'all. If you would like to go back and listen to some of the other episodes, they are available on YouTube, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever your flavor, we got something for you. So our last podcast, we got into some fun times, talking about parenting and babies and blended families. And then 2021 kept on giving.
Yeah, I think it's crazy because we were on vacation for 6 days.
Yeah.
And so I guess for what it's worth, we can say 6 days, but we didn't really get back to life until like Thursday. Like, it started to feel like we were back in our normal routine.
I went back to work on Wednesday.
I mean, you went back to work, but you worked in the bed all day. Most of the day.
No. I gave like half a day as a favor for you. To let you do your thing.
Either way, fine. I didn't feel like I was getting back into the swing of things until like Thursday. But obviously, just life just kept happening, and I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot. So, not that I anticipated celebrating the conviction and the Derek Chauvin trial, but I at least thought I would get a chance to like take a breath.
Like a good deep one, let it out and sigh.
Like, finally, you know?
Yeah.
We were coming back from Chicago, and we were on a plane, and I was able to pull it up on CNN, and we were able to hear that, in fact, Derek Chauvin was found guilty of all 3 counts.
Yeah.
So he was found guilty of second and third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. So there's been a lot of back and forth on why he was charged with what and what this means. So I'm going to get into a little bit of that, and then we'll kind of get into more of our reactions to it. So second-degree murder is causing the death of a human being, which he did, without intent to cause that death. I think the part that a lot of people were confused on is why it wasn't considered murder, or they didn't charge him with like first-degree murder, and that's premeditated. And that's extremely hard to prove, especially in a situation where Derek is now wearing a badge.
Yeah.
So they went with the second-degree murder, which is without intent to cause death, while committing or attempting to commit another felony. And so in this case, the alleged felony was third-degree assault. He was found guilty of that, maximum of 40 years. The second charge was the third-degree murder, is unintentionally causing someone's death by committing an act that is imminently dangerous to other persons while exhibiting a depraved mind with reckless disregard for human life. I definitely think he met that criteria based on everything we've seen and heard. That carries a max of 25 years. And then the final is the second-degree manslaughter, which is culpable negligence, where a person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes the chance of causing death or great bodily harm to someone else. Obviously, he met that. That comes with a max of 10 years. I think what gets tricky, as I was been doing some reading, is technically, even though there's been a bunch of complaints against the ex-officer Chauvin, technically this is a first offense for him. So what I was reading is, typically with a first offense, the max is around 12 and a half years. And so it is going to be on the prosecution, who's done, I believe, a very good job from what I saw and read in this, to convince the judge, who's the one that hands out the sentencing, that given the circumstances, we shouldn't go with the 12 and a half, and we should go a lot further along. The other aspect of this is, a lot of times these are served concurrently.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a max of 45, because the 10 and the 25 will be served while the 40 is going. So if that happens and he made it to 40, he'd be 85 when he got out. Good behavior, police, he'll probably get out before that. And I guess I'll just kind of give my thoughts. Like I said, I wanted to breathe, and everything that I read led me to believe this would be the outcome. And then when I was talking to you, I was saying they deliberated for 4 hours, and then they came back like halfway through the next day, and they had a verdict. As I read more, it was brought to my attention that they didn't ask the judge any questions. These are regular people trying to understand the law, and they didn't need to ask the judge any questions. So I was pretty confident that they were going to come back with the right choice. I knew there was more white than black on the jury, but I knew black people wasn't coming back with a not guilty that fast.
Yeah.
Like, ain't no way. So I was very happy to get this part out of the way. There's still an appeal process that is likely to follow. There is the actual sentencing, which I believe they said happened in 8 weeks.
Yeah, or less than that. I'm not sure.
I thought I read somewhere it was 8 weeks. So nonetheless, I'm sure that'll be also a very tense time. So I think at that point, that'll bring some real finality to this situation. Whether it's 12...
For us, though, not for necessarily his family. Either way, George is gone.
I agree, but I guess if I was in their shoes, I think it would still be similar. Like, in some ways, I think it's easier the fact that at least he was found guilty for them. Because either way, George, unfortunately, is gone. But at least at this point, and I think the Sun said that in relation to the Raiders, I thought was tone-deaf tweet, was, we can breathe again. And so I think for them, their biggest thing was at least find him guilty. How long he gets punished, probably to them, may or may not be as significant as it is to us. But, and I don't know. I pray I never have to deal with that and put myself in their shoes. But I think for them, that this was the big milestone.
Yeah.
And they've kind of alluded to that from different things I've heard.
I guess first off was just my reaction. Like you said, we were sitting on the plane waiting to get off the plane to hear, because I guess we found out that they were going to release the verdict as we were boarding Chicago to come back home.
Right.
So we were just like, dang, we won't find out until we land. But then,
or so we thought.
Yeah, or so we thought. And then we landed, checking, couldn't find anything. And it's like, well, I don't know how to feel about that, so I won't feel any kind of way. But then as I heard, because you had the video playing, as I heard, you know, what was going on in the courtroom, everybody around us, if you noticed, everybody around us, in the immediate, or at least in the immediate vicinity around us, stopped what they were doing to also listen. And for me, obviously, I'm looking at the faces of the people who were around us. There was a white lady next to me. There was 2 white people behind you. There's just white people just all around. But the flight attendant was black.
She was. She came over.
And she came all the way down. There was no more social distancing. She came down the aisle and she was like literally right in between us watching. And after, you know, they said guilty on all 3 counts, like this overwhelming feeling came over me. Like, I was happy that it was over, but I was still sad that it even took that much effort for people to see that he was wrong, because earlier in the day, and then even while we were on vacation, I would pull up the stream of what was going on in court and foolishly look at the comments of the people in the, you know, in the video feed. And for everybody who says that racism isn't still a thing, and, you know, the media is the sole driving force for trying to, you know, cause division between the races, that's not true. I see enough of it, I've experienced enough of it in my lifetime to know that racism is still alive and extremely well in America. And I immediately looked at the faces around me. And the guy sitting behind you, not next to the window, but on the aisle, like the expression on his face, you could tell he was blown. And I didn't say anything. I was just like, I'm not going to let you steal this moment from me.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't say anything.
For what it's worth, no one said anything.
No, nobody's. Oh, no, the girl next to me, she was like, you know, she gave me like a...
No, and I didn't know, because like you said, we were surrounded basically with white people. And so it was awkward to a certain extent, because I'm like, should I have this up? Should I turn this down?
Yeah, I didn't care.
Yeah, I was going to hold the phone. And we're in the confined area, in the back of the back of the
very back of the plane, yeah.
So I didn't really know what to do, but I was like, you know what? They're going to hear this.
Yeah.
But to your point, there was a guy standing up, and I didn't see his face change, but that told me everything I needed to know.
Yeah.
Like, there was no, what's the word? No relief that they got the verdict right.
Yeah.
There might not have been a, dag nabbit, they got him. But there was no, like, they did the right thing.
Yeah.
And good.
I think the part that, so obviously we get off the plane and you had to go to the bathroom. And I was standing there looking at the TV as like they were showing what was going on in the court, putting him in handcuffs and all that. And I told you when you came out of the bathroom, this white lady, she looked at me. I think maybe she looked at my shirt too, but she definitely looked at me. And she says to me, "Can I hug you?" And I'm like, yeah, sure. And like she had like a moment and she was just like, I'm really happy. Like, obviously this doesn't fix everything, but at least they got this right. And now it's like, even now I feel a little, the tears. It's just so emotional on so many levels, because obviously we all had the same thoughts. They might not convict him. It might not go the way that we want it to, because it's not like we haven't seen it before. And so for it to actually happen, it means a lot to a lot of people. But then of course, we get back into the real world, we're out of vacation, and we turn on the news and just more crap everywhere. So, you know, it was a short-lived moment of relief. But I think I tweeted or posted on my Reaction Apparel page like the same day, like, yes, this is a good move, but don't get distracted now. There are still so many other cases that won't ever make it to the national news coverage. There are still so many other things that can be done to make sure that people like Derek do not get to walk away from these situations anymore. So.
And my takeaway was different, but probably more morbid. And that we've talked about how I believe, and not all inclusive, but how I believe whites function.
What is it Joe calls them?
The evil whites.
Evil whites.
And so for the evil racist white people in this country that have infiltrated the police and our judicial system and all the branches of government and things like that, I was nervous because they want to get that back. They lost in this trial. And so my fear, and yes, I believe in God, but my fear, my concern, whatever word you want to put on it, is they're going to get us back.
Dang. That's really what you thought?
And that's what I've seen play out.
I mean,
like I've seen, and we're going to get into some more. I've seen about 5 since this. Like, I'm sure they're pissed that it went this way. Even under these circumstances, I am confident that they are pissed, and the way in which they've reacted since, and what, like I said, we'll get into a couple of those cases, lets me know they're out to prove. And we're gonna have a lot more accidental tasers. We're gonna have a lot more, I forgot to turn my body cameras on. It's coming. It is coming.
Well, yeah, that's definitely way more morbid than where you would want to take it. Dang. I pray faithfully that that's not the case, because
evil whites are sore losers.
They are. We saw them on the Capitol.
There you go. There you go. So that's my thing. And as black people, if y'all listening, take heed. It don't take much. It's never taken much. Sometimes it don't take nothing at all. But, and this will allow us to kind of transition. You can't be walking outside with a knife. Not now. Not now. Like, they are looking for every reason. I'm sure in some places it's been blatant, in other places it's been behind closed doors. They've given them the word, hey, these are the steps you got to follow to get away with it. You can't try to get back in your car right now. There's 2 cases we're going to get into where somebody tried to get back into a car and simply pull off. And they die. You don't get that liberty. You've never really had it, but you definitely don't have it now. You have to, it's below being humble right now.
But see, and I guess that's obviously, that's the issue, you know, because there are many cases in which said person of color was being compliant. Said person of color was following the orders, but still ended up dead. So it's not about us being better or more vigilant about our behavior. It's about them.
It is, but it isn't. And that's my point. And almost all of these situations, and I think that's why George Floyd's the outcome was different. There's nothing on camera showing any struggle. If there is an inkling of struggle, if they try and put you in handcuffs and you swing your arm away, if they give you a command and you taking your time, we saw the Army lieutenant. Like, you gotta be.
Which I just found so disrespectful. Especially for all those people who respect the uniform, they're serving the country, blah, 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 blah. This man is literally in his military uniform. And they are disrespecting the crap out of him.
But he lived.
He did?
And that's my point. You gotta be like, you gotta eat all of it. Because if you give them a reason, they don't need one. But if you give them a reason, they are on edge right now. They are pissed. They are seething. And it's kind of one of those people where, like, when I was younger, I would go out. And I had a group of friends. And these weren't, the most Christian group of friends.
Yeah, but I can think of a few of them.
But there were certain times and certain people in our circle where they went out to fight. Like, they would drink, they would get ready to go. And when we got out, many times, they're like, I'm just waiting for somebody to say something crazy and it's on. And that's where the cops are right now. The evil white racist cops, that their hand already be on the trigger. They are waiting. And they're not going to kneel on your neck because they saw that'll get you convicted. But if I shoot you 4 times in the chest, 10 times in the back, if I shoot you, I'm good. It probably will never even come close to going to trial. So That's for those of you who are watching this, that's my suggestion. And I pray that I'm not put in that situation because I don't know if I can actually follow my own advice.
I was just getting ready to say, because you know you.
I do.
And I know you.
I know what it takes. But do I have the ability to do that? No, because it sucks when someone follows you around and takes advantage of you and belittles you and treats you like worse than an animal.
So how are you going to give other people advice that you're not even going to take?
I mean, people do it all the time.
But that's not how it works.
That's exactly how it works.
Especially not in this situation. You have 3 kids to come home to.
Think of Derrick Jackson. People give advice all the time and they don't follow.
Oh, I hate you.
Like, what do you mean?
Oh,
that's the way the world works. All these psychologists, they be living double lives.
Oh, Jesus, pray.
Their lives be in disarray. That's why they be killing themselves.
You take your own advice, okay?
My intent is to.
Take 100%. Your own advice.
But I've had my interaction with the police, still
Me
here.
Too. Yeah. I guess
really
more recently than you.
Yeah, but if we're talking about it, you need to take my advice. Because you be talking.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, that's what got me hemmed up that last time.
I know.
It is, but she was still wrong. That's why she didn't show up in court.
The cops will be wrong all the time.
They do. They 100% do.
But they can be wrong and you can be dead. Which one you want to be?
And that's why I said,
yeah,
I will follow the advice. Okay. I already do.
I haven't had interaction with the police in a long time, thank God. And every time I have, I've been respectful. The only times they got a little shaky is when they start talking to me all crazy.
Yeah, that's always
and then when they feel like they need to get aggressive and assert their authority. And I'm a man wants to come out. But to them, you're not a man. And if you start acting like a man, they got to put you down. So I think the fact that we got the verdict is a win. I don't like the direction what the repercussions of that verdict will be felt. And they are currently being felt around this country. So that brings me to actually I've referenced 2 other situations. So are you familiar with the 2 situations?
The Daunte Wright and Ma'Khia.
I think it's
Ma'Khia.
Yeah.
Bryant.
So
I am.
So initially there was outrage over Ma'Khia's situation because it was like an hour later.
Yeah.
I think the actual incident happened almost simultaneously.
Yeah, as we were getting
They got reported maybe an hour or 2 after the verdict.
So me personally, I think people should still be pissed because for whatever reason, when police officers interact with Black people, they do not attempt to de-escalate situations. They don't shoot to injure. They don't shoot to disarm. They don't. It's always lethal.
But that's when we first talked about it. You said that officer's going to get off because they did it as trained.
Yeah, and most definitely. But for me, that's what the problem is. 100%. I've seen too many situations where other races, however you want to take that, you can take it as is, are able to literally shoot up whatever. And unless they kill themselves, they're able to walk away from the situation and live to get to trial. Yep. It happens all the time.
All the time.
There's been like 600, that's probably a gross exaggeration, but there have been a number of mass shootings. Yeah. Since the world reopened in America. We're not talking about in other countries. We're talking about America. And a lot of those people, they survived.
Yeah.
And to see, I mean, I'm disappointed in the situation as a whole. But to see the officer immediately get out of the car, and obviously he assessed the situation as a dangerous one. I get it. But I don't understand the thought process of killing the girl, Ma'Khia. I don't understand it. there were, I read somewhere that the officer could have easily, it's harder to shoot to disarm or to injure because he could have potentially shot the other person. Well, the way he was shooting, he still could have shot the other girl.
Yeah, because it was right.
It was right there.
It could have went through her and hit the other.
And hit the other girl, whose name I do not know. But it's just amazing to me how little they value our lives so frequently in these situations. So, yep, she had a knife and she was defending herself, or she was the aggressor. Either way, she did not deserve to just die. And the fact that the situation now is that, oh, well, Ma'Khia was being violent and this, that, and the third, so we shouldn't pay attention to this as much. That's bull, in my opinion.
Okay. So, I agree we should pay attention. I think the difference for me in this and versus Deontay Wright versus George Floyd versus even Jacob Blake, for me, is the one, I guess my concern, my issue is the girl, we don't know her name. If that's Courtney and someone has a knife and they're trying to, by all accounts, stab Courtney, I would want the officer to do what is necessary to eliminate that threat. However, I would have wanted, I feel like it could have stopped him before it got there.
And exactly. All those adults that were around, like, I'm sure there are videos from phones and all of that stuff, but there were way too many adults standing around watching it happen.
So, I agree. I feel like this was definitely preventable. I would not, so even in the example I gave you, and from what I've seen for a child, I believe a taser would have functioned perfectly fine. Maybe if he shoots her once, I'm good with that. I think the people, and to your point, why I don't think we should just gloss over this, is because he shot her in the back 4 times.
4 times. And it wasn't even just that he shot her in the back 4 times. He stood there. There were other officers around the scene. She was clearly disarmed, disabled, and no longer a threat. But no one administered any sort of first aid to this child. And you had a bunch of people screaming at you at this point. She's the one who called 911. She's 16 years old, blah, 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 blah. But the girl is laying there, dying, and nobody's helping her. And again, that's complete disregard for our lives.
Correct. I'm confident if Ma'Khia was Melissa,
Melissa
Megan,
wouldn't have got shot.
She's still here today.
Yeah.
And Melissa might have stabbed whoever the other girl is, but she'd still be here today. So I'm not disputing any of that. I don't want people to die on this one just because I feel like if you get too emotionally involved and you think that this officer is going to be punished,
Oh no, you gotta let that one go.
You're going to be disappointed. And that brings me to, I'm seeing a trend where when the police feel like they got an out, we get the body cam fast.
Immediately.
Because we got the body cam same day, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Like, the incident happened, and by the time the incident was hitting the news reel, like the news cycle, we had the body cam footage to go with it.
And in other situations, and we have one actually right down the street from us, and I think his name is Mr. Brown. I can't think of his name. I just was looking at it.
Alexander?
Is it Alexander? That
Maybe.
doesn't sound right.
Oh.
And I don't have my phone. But it happened on Wednesday. And we're recording a couple days later. And we're requesting the same thing with Andrew Brown. We're requesting the body cam. But Spotsylvania County said they got it, but they can't release it. That don't make no sense to me. I don't know how you can't release it when you got it. And in other cases, we've had to wait many, many times, which makes me more and more nervous about what we're going to see when that actually happens. But again, it's been, we got back Tuesday. When did we get back?
We got Tuesday.
We got back Tuesday. Since Tuesday, there's been at least one major incident like a day. And I don't think it's going to stop. And I think that is retribution for them feeling like we took one of their own, so they got to take 10 or 100 of us. And it sucks, but that is the racist country in which we live in. You put me on this diet with this beans and this Hispanic food that you know get you gas.
We're recording, be quiet.
I mean, we recording, you looking at me all crazy.
Oh, man.
Oh.
No, so to your point, the whole idea of retribution is not unfamiliar. It's happened before in history. I would like to think that that's not what's going on right now. But by all accounts, if you said, if you watch the news cycle, which at this point, I really don't want to do. I don't want to watch any more videos of Black bodies being shot. I don't want to see any more of it. I just don't. I can't keep taking that into my spirit because it hurts. But just because I don't want to see it doesn't mean that I don't know it's not happening. And I can't not acknowledge it.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Wait, sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
Which do you think is more likely? Do you think that it is more likely that these killings will come to an end? Or do you think it's more likely that we'll get to a point that when we see it, we don't get upset?
It's, unfortunately, I think it's getting to a point where when we see it, we don't get upset because we see it so much. Again, like I said, for every case that makes the major news cycle, there are a lot more that never do. Like that list, people have all sorts of lists of people who've died in encounters with police. And that list, it mentions a lot of the major ones. But then, again, there's so many that don't. And like I said, at this point, I don't even want to see the videos anymore. I want the body cam footage to be available so that if we can bring those officers to justice, we can. But I don't want them floating around the internet anymore. I just don't want to see them. I'm really tired of seeing them. I'm really tired of having to explain to white people or to whomever why being Black in America still really sucks at times.
I agree. And I'm going to go in a different direction. And hopefully this doesn't get us put off the radio. And hopefully friends of mine who come from this background don't hate me or end their friendship with me, because it is not meant to be as a meaning of malice towards you individually. But maybe 2 months ago, there was a new hashtag. And I saw it a lot. And I saw it a lot in the Black community. And I saw people insinuating that Black people should advocate and I saw that a recent law was passed, I don't want to say it incorrectly. I think it was like an anti-Asian hate bill that got passed. Super quick. And there was all these Stop Asian Hate hashtags. And I'm just going off what I've seen. Since all this stuff has been happening in the last couple of days, I haven't seen any collective groups of Asians riding for black people. I haven't seen them doing anything. In essence, they've disappeared. The Stop Asian Hate hashtag is gone. They got their bill passed. They're good, by all accounts. And it really bothers me when I watch other communities hop on our pain or hop on our wave to advance their cause. And once their cause gets pushed to the forefront while ours continues to stay stagnant, they drop off and disappear. And it ain't just them. And for the sake of our viewership, I'm not going to name other groups, but they're not the only one. But I do see it, and to me it sucks that is also a part of this. Is that too many times black people, we fight and advocate for everyone else. But too often when we need those same people to advocate for us, they're not there. And it's a repetitive cycle that I hope stops. But back to the question, I agree. I think we as black people are getting more, quote unquote, desensitized to it. And that to me is really, really concerning. Because once we get to a place where we basically normalize it and the outrage and anger is gone, I don't know what we have left. I don't know what that world looks like when cops know they don't even care anymore. Or they care, but
they can't do nothing.
They can't. Well, they know that's the issue now. That's why Derek was on his knee like that, or was on his neck like that, because he thought, "I'm good. All these cameras, all these people.
I don't care. I'm gonna get off."
And that was the other part we haven't talked about. Like when the verdict came down, I think he was the most confused person.
That literally, like, obviously this is a really heavy topic, heavy subject, content matter, whatever you want to call it. But his look on his face was like, wait a second.
This can't happen to me. This can't happen to me.
Where's my white privilege? Like, do I need to fill out a form? Do I need to write something down? Because
like somebody gave me assurances that I was good.
Supposed to happen. That priceless. Like, I've seen memes. None of them have really done justice to the actual firsthand expression on his face when those guilty verdicts were read. But again, that was the privilege. He just knew he was going to get off.
He did.
That's why his lawyer was able to be awful. He did a terrible job defending him.
And so I've heard that. But what could his lawyer argue? I've heard people say that his lawyer was not good. We have the video. And I feel like he threw every Hail Mary that could have... Some of the stuff he was coming up with, I thought was creative.
It was. But...
like, he was on the ground near the exhaust. So he died from the exhaust. Which scientifically takes days to die from. Like, I feel like he was just...
Well, no, it doesn't.
That's what I've seen, like, in order to...
document. Out in the open.
Yeah, out in the open, not in the garage. No. But based on the distance to said exhaust, like, then they said it was the drugs and he had something in his mouth, so it was food.
Yeah.
Like, he was just...
throwing whatever would stick.
He was hoping and praying. Like, I don't know how you can defend that. That was worse than OJ. Like, as far as the ability to defend. Like, if there was surveillance footage of Nicole's house, then that would have been different. Yeah. But they ain't had none of that with OJ. This was broad daylight in front of the entire world. The fact that it took 5 weeks and it took 38 witnesses to get to this is just crazy. And that is the standard. And again, thank God, and I really wish I should have looked up because I wasn't planning to go here, the young lady's name that recorded it, because we've heard his report.
Yeah, his report didn't.
It was a medical incident, and that was it. And so who knows how many other cases have been written up across the country over the years.
But that's the thing. Like, you read their report, and you would think that the people... Prime example, the lady when I got arrested, the report that she wrote, like, I'm reading it and I'm like, I didn't do that. Like, yeah. Like, I know I was intoxicated, but I didn't do any of this. Like, she had all this crazy stuff in there. I'm like, hold up. And then, I go to my lawyer's office and their cameras footage. So she was able to get camera footage from outside the Fillmore. And you see, like, none of what is in the report is what's actually in this video. And I'm like, how did you just lie like that? You could potentially ruin my life.
They don't care.
And she could have cared less. I mean, for what it's worth, she didn't show up in court because she knew she lied. But even then, at the time, it's like, there should be some sort of something, yeah, because she just blatantly lied in this official filing of a police report. Like, those things can, again, ruin people's lives. But they don't care.
They don't.
Jesus.
And so to the don't care part. The other thing that bothered me in this, and I'm not surprised. I'm kind of surprised, but I'm not surprised. Politics. So I get, it's kind of like people used to tell me, when you're at work, you're interviewing every day. Every day is a job interview. So I guess from a politician, every situation is an opportunity to campaign. But let me be very clear. George Floyd did not sacrifice his life for anything. He was murdered by an evil, racist white cop. So as a politician, a white, old politician, to try and quote unquote praise him for his sacrifice, and I haven't heard this reported by anybody. I haven't heard the criticism. I heard more criticism when Nancy Pelosi got her hair done during COVID than I did when she made this idiotic statement that he sacrificed his life, and how touching it was to cry out to his mom while he's being murdered. Like, the gall that you out of touch old crooked politicians have is just, I don't even want to say it's mind-blowing, but it's like, golly, are y'all that removed from society and human beings as a people?
Yes, they are.
Like, you would think after January 6th, they would have had some level of reckoning with real life.
No, they didn't. They were pissed off for like a week because, I mean, people were trying to get in and do them harm. But after that died down, I haven't heard about any of those people being sent to jail. I haven't heard about any cases. I haven't heard about any of it.
They promoted the black officer and that was it.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
in hindsight, kind of wish he wouldn't have did what he did. And I would have liked to have seen what would have come of it. I would like to see.
You're gonna get us banned.
That's fine. That's fine.
But no, for what it's worth, in some ways I do share your opinion. Because if you look at the people who are our elected officials, most of them don't look like us. Most of them have not lived like we have. And most of them at this point don't relate to us in any way, shape, or form.
Unless they need a vote.
Exactly. Mostly because they're career politicians and they've been in office since before we even knew that, it was our time to vote. And I guess my issue, and it's something that I want to work on, is the fact that people don't pay attention to what the politicians are doing outside of election season.
But I think that's intentional, because even during election season, it is really hard to find information that they don't want you to know. When you go on their websites, they give you their list. And either it's 1,000 pages long of all the stuff they believe, or it's a couple bullet points to what they want you to know. But it's not, well, for me, Congress signs bills all the time.
Yeah. They vote on them with the whole nine.
That doesn't get distributed. The stuff that gets distributed is abortion or anti-abortion stuff, marijuana stuff, maybe some criminal gun stuff changes, and money, economics. But there's a bunch of other stuff that they're signing and they're putting in place that we never know about.
But there are different organizations. Like, I know a lot of people don't listen to NPR or pay a lot of attention to NPR. They do a really good job of distributing information that can directly impact your life. The ACLU, and then each state, there's an ACLU representation in each state. Like, if you go to the one, I look at the one for Virginia all the time.
So what they've been voting on?
I mean, at this moment, I don't
know. But that's my point.
I know that there was a crime bill that was up for some sort of renewal. Obviously, the marijuana issue has come to hand. They're looking at voting laws. Mm-hmm. There's quite a few different things that I've seen in passing, but have not taken the time to go and look at.
My point is, these people, they vote their interests. And like I said, the other thing is, there's people in office that you didn't vote for.
Yeah.
And so you got to deal with those consequences. It's just...
So, we've had this conversation before. In my eyes, the politicians, the people, whatever you want to call them, they get a few years to vote in your interests or to vote collectively for your interests. And I think the issue, like I said, we hear from them during election cycle, and then we don't hear from them again until election cycle. And unfortunately, Black people have been allowed, we allow them to come into our communities, mm-hmm. feed us a bunch of crap, and then we get upset when things happen, and we're like, well, who's supposed to represent us? It's like, well, you voted for them. And the problem is, when it's time to vote again, it's so far back in your memory on the things that you're pissed off about because something else is distracting you from your issues with said politician, that you just turn around and vote for them again. And they're back in office again. It happens all the time.
But I think the bigger issue, and this is life. Life requires choices. And I agree with you that we vote the same people back in office. I think the problem is we only got two options. And we have someone that opposes a number of 80% of our views. And then we got someone that might support 80%, but there's 20% that's really, really important that they ain't gonna do nothing for.
Yeah.
And so I'm stuck because neither one's, and I think most people I talked to in this last election, like,
I don't want to vote for anybody.
Of the hundreds of millions of people that live in this country, we ain't find nobody we really liked.
Which is also a problem.
But I think that's the point. The governmental election system has been built in such a way. You only got two options. And you can talk about write-ins and third parties and all that, and you can give me the one-offs where one might win a state or a county. But the reality is you got two choices. And none of those choices have ever cared about black people. And I don't care. I said what I said. And that's a problem. And it's doing it again. It's the government.
They're tunneling into the house.
So I don't know how you fix it. And you can start at the grassroots level. And I think we saw that wave this last election.
I was gonna say, like,
we saw a bunch of women and minorities and all this stuff.
But who did we end up with? Joe Biden.
No. I'm not even blaming Joe. I'm saying we're still here.
No, for sure.
Like, a lot of these issues, Joe can't fix. These are local government issues.
For what it's worth, Joe has been in office for a really long time. He's contributed to some issues.
Yeah. I'm not even going down that path. I'm strictly speaking of where we're at today. And we've seen, a county here, a county there, defund some of the police money. I've seen maybe one or two places have ended qualified immunity. But by and large, it's business as usual. And we can have George Floyd's situation happen, and 10 miles south, Deontay Wright happens. And then there's just situations, and it's around the same areas, and it's the same stuff in Louisville. And I can't remember who it was in Louisville. I think it was Breonna Taylor who was in Louisville. And then, like, a week later, or while they were rallying, they shot another guy who was a local community kind of legend. He owned a restaurant and left him outside for like hours. Like, so even in the same environments where stuff be happening and be chaos, they just keep killing us. So it's really wild.
But to the Daunte Wright thing, the situation, I think, because this, for me, or for anyone who's familiar, was very similar to Oscar Grant.
Yeah.
That officer, I believe, did ultimately get charged. But it took a whole lot.
I'll let you finish.
What is it?
I'll say, but it's different.
No, yes.
It's an accident.
Totally. So was Oscar Grant an accident? That's what he said. He said he was reaching for his taser and didn't realize that he pulled his gun.
That's true.
And he was shot several times and he killed him.
And that also is one of the small differences. Sadly, she only shot him once. And he drove away, but yeah. But go ahead.
She resigned, so she gets to keep her pension.
So is that confirmed? Because I was reading something else that said they fired her, but then I heard she tried to resign, but then they didn't accept it. So I'm not sure what happened.
Oh, I was under the impression that she resigned.
Because I would believe she tried to resign, and then whoever her boss was didn't accept her resignation, and they were like holding it, and then I haven't heard anything since. So maybe they allowed her to
I guess
resign.
that's something that we would have to look into. But I was under the impression from everything that I've seen was that she resigned.
Yeah.
And 25 years on the force. I'm sure you've been met with other situations that were just as difficult, and somehow, in some way, you couldn't tell the difference between your taser and your gun. I've held both. They're not the same. And, oh shoot, I shot him. Like.
Yeah. I mean, she has a history where she's covered stuff up that came out. Head of the police union. So that's the most powerful group in this country to me.
They're like the mob.
Not lobbyists, not all that. The police unions in this country, when there was a bill that came up in California, it was a really good bill. Police unions got a hold of that.
Yeah, that was dead.
And I don't completely understand how they work. I don't know if it's just money, similar to the NRA. But they get it done.
I think a big part of it is they have so much leverage. When police strike, which doesn't happen very often, but when they do strike, all sorts of things can happen. They are necessary because they're necessary. But the fact that they are as powerful as they are, I think is what has given them the thought process that I'm above the law because I am the law. I am above the law because I make the rules. The rules are what I say they are when I say they are. And that's the problem.
No, I mean, I agree. And the mindset, I guess I just wish it was different. Like, I wish things would evolve in some capacity. And they just haven't. You know.
There was a police officer in Louisiana who committed suicide. I couldn't think of his name. But before he committed suicide, he left this whole
manifesto,
basically, and he was a black officer.
Oh, because I heard about the dude in California that went on a spree.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, him too. Yeah, this was in February of this year. He killed himself, and the reason he killed himself was because he was just tired. From because I did watch some of the videos, which were really sad. Where is his name? Clyde Kerr committed suicide. And obviously not all police officers are bad, but there's enough bad ones out there to make people feel the way they feel, period. And he was an officer. He'd done time, I think, also in Iraq. Army veteran. And basically in the videos, if you're not familiar with them, he was just like, I've seen the corruption. I've seen what this job does to people. And if you're not okay with just towing the line, and if something happens that you don't agree with, either way, you're still a cop, so you have to agree with us. Like, he was just tired of that thought process. He was tired of just everything that it took for him to be a cop as a black man, which I'm sure that within itself can be super difficult. But I'm sure there are other officers out there that feel that way. Like, we've got a neighbor, police officer. I saw him tweet or, post on Facebook when Chauvin got convicted. Like, because you were wearing your badge, but you weren't really representing what it stood for. I think a bigger portion of this conversation that we don't have is there are enough good cops. Stop your partners. Say something. Like, I don't understand why.
But that's where the union comes in. That's part of being in the union. It's a family. Family don't snitch on family. You always back the blue. Right or wrong, you back the blue.
Well, that's just dumb.
I agree. Because if we had a family member that was like a child predator, I'm not defending that.
Yeah, I ain't going with it.
Or if they murdered someone, And I knew when they came and asked me, hey.
You go snitch.
That's a whole different argument we can have about what is and isn't snitching, because the mindset shifts when it's at your door, and when it's you or someone you know that got beat down or fight. I ain't seen that if it was a fight, but someone got murdered. Then all of a sudden it's my family. I want justice. But when someone come to you to help somebody else's family get justice, I ain't seen that, I ain't snitching. There's a difference, and that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah. So one thing that stuck out to me watching the video, he says, "I've had enough of all this nonsense, serving a system that does not give a bleep about me or people like me. You have no idea how hard it is to put on a uniform in this day and age with everything that's going on." And so he also had other family issues, things going on. I think he had recently re-divorced a woman he'd previously been married to. Like, there was a lot going on in his life. But in his video, I think in the last video, he even said, like, they're going to say that I'm crazy. They're going to say that I'm off the wall. They're going to say all these things. But in this moment, clear, sound mind, I'm telling you, this is not right. The way things are is not right, and it's not how they have to be. And if my suicide, my death, sparks a greater conversation about the mentality of police officers, the things that we're allowed to do, the things that we're allowed to get away with, then so be it. And, obviously, I know what happened, but how many other officers possibly feel that way? Just being in a system, obviously I don't know, I'm not a police officer, but I would like to think that most of them join the force because they want to do good. They want to make a change in their community. They want to be a positive influence in their community. I refuse to believe they all just joined.
You really believe that?
Yeah. Little kids that run around like, I want to be a police officer when I grow up.
Those aren't the people that become cops. The people that become cops are punks that failed at life and they have no other way out.
That's not all the people.
I'm not saying that's all. I think there's more of them than people that I want to do better for my community.
Protect and serve.
They grew up in good communities. The police officers that you're talking about that want to protect their communities, they probably didn't even grow up in those communities. So, no. And in some cases, and I'm not going to say that. Because, again, I've probably said enough on this podcast. But, no, I don't. And I feel like that's why they carry themselves a certain way. And they keep talking about gun control and all that it should take for you to be able to own a gun. But not enough people are talking about what it should take and what kind of background checks you should go through to be a police officer.
I agree.
Y'all keep talking about gun control. When y'all gonna start holding these police officers to the same standard? Like, it ain't the same. And they are dealing with far more difficult situations. And this isn't to belittle the situations that they be dealing with, because I've watched cops, I've watched movies. My dad was a cop. I've heard tons of stories of police officers and what they experience. And it ain't easy. I'm definitely not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of situations where it's a split second. But a lot of the stuff we're seeing is people trying to walk away from situations and they're pissed. You're not going to jump in your car while I'm arresting you. You're not going to walk away from me while I'm talking to you. And so they're killing people because they can. And that's the problem. And until somebody higher up is going to hold them accountable, initially, not after complaint number 13, not after we've paid thousands and thousands, in some cases millions of dollars in lawsuits. If they nip it in the bud early, we might get somewhere. But they cover it up, they back the blue, it's hush hush, like the officer talked about. They go to a different county, they let them resign, they give them a nice letter of recommendation to go somewhere else and continue the same behavior. And like children, if you don't correct the behavior, it just gets worse. And it sucks. And we're kind of long on time here, and I know this has been kind of heavy, but even with Andre Brown in North Carolina, we saw Andrew Brown. We haven't even got the body cam footage, and 3 officers have resigned and 10 are on administrative leave. And we ain't even got the footage yet.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's awful.
And by all accounts, they lit up a car because he got into a car. Thank God, I guess. Well, I ain't gonna say thank God, because a lot of stuff could have been prevented if they just lit up OJ's car. But there's a bunch of people that have gone on speed chases or police chases. Let them run out of gas. Why are you shooting into this car? In a neighborhood, in a community. Like, they're on another level. And at some point, hopefully we get to accountability. But I think there's a much greater chance that we'll grow numb before accountability comes. And that's all I got.
Yeah, like I said, I don't disagree with you on really any of it. It's just sad. Any way you look at it, it's sad. Like you said, for time, I think
yeah, I told you we need to get that clock joint. Supreme had a cool little clock, but that thing sold out too fast.
What was it, like $200?
No, like $60.
Oh, you should have got it.
It sold out too fast.
No, what else?
And I was working, because some of us went back early. And,
you know, if we had set up the sound stuff, this would be that time where I would gunshots or something.
Yeah.
Rude.
But no, we do gotta do it. But no, I think we're still good for everything. But again, we appreciate y'all. We'll get back to maybe some more fun stuff. We had some other stuff we was gonna get to. We'll check this week for a bonus episode. Snowfall ended, so we definitely want to talk about that. Give you guys some more time to watch that.
Yeah, like I said, like this week happened like what? DMX passed the week before last. While we were on vacation, Snoop passed away.
Snoop. Let's say no,
not Snoop.
No, Snoop.
Black Rob passed away.
Yeah.
And then what? Yesterday, a couple days ago, Shock G passed away.
I think it was like the last day. I thought
maybe today. What's today?
I think it was like
Thursday
or yesterday.
Okay, well, either way, yeah. By the time this airs,
yeah,
Shock G passed away.
By the time this airs, we might have somebody else.
It's just crazy. So obviously, always, you know, we pray for everyone under the sound of our voices that you be healed and whole, because this world is ridiculous
and safe.
And we always claim victory over enemy. Whether it be COVID, whether it be crazy police officers, no matter what it is, it's the enemy, and we claim victory over the enemy. And obviously everybody doesn't believe like we do, but we're praying for you anyway.
Thanks.
Just, you know, obviously this was a heavy episode, but continue to try and figure out ways that you don't let the weight of the world weigh on your spirit. And that's all I gotta say.
Cool. So, hug your loved ones, love your loved ones. Black people, I'm gonna say it again. Do everything you can and not give them a reason, because they waiting. They waiting. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Catch us next week. Catch us on EB Radio every Monday at 8 p.m. You can catch us on YouTube. And
the link. I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You jumped out there now.
Because we keep telling people to listen to EB Radio.
Yeah.
But we got to give them a way to listen to EB Radio.
It's a free app.
The link for the app
Facebook page
will be somewhere in the description of the YouTube video and Facebook. You know, we'll put it out there.
All right. What she said. We got a link tree. We'll probably put it in the link tree.
We'll put it in the link tree. Boom. You are a genius.
I know. Y'all have a lovely, lovely Monday, and look for something later this week. God bless.